The sky above the dead planet was gray. Ash floated through the air like snow. The trees were black, burned long ago. The ground was dry and cracked. Jack Harrow, a human scavenger, walked slowly through the ruins. He wore a dusty coat and heavy boots. His robot dog, Scrap, followed beside him, sniffing the ground with metal sensors. Jack had been on this planet for weeks, looking for old tech, batteries, and wires, anything he could sell. But today felt different. The wind was silent. The HFY forest felt watched. Suddenly, Scrap stopped and growled. Jack raised his head. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. Then he heard it, a sound, soft and broken, like a child's cry. It came from behind a pile of twisted metal. Jack moved carefully. His boots crunched the ash. He pulled out a small light and pointed it toward the noise. There, half buried in the wreckage of a cargo pod, was a tiny alien girl. Her skin was pale blue. Her white hair was dirty and tangled. She was curled into a ball, arms around her knees. Her eyes were big and glowing faintly, full of fear. Jack froze. She wasn't a machine. She wasn't dangerous. She was just a child. "Hey, it's okay," Jack said softly, putting down his weapon. He knelt beside her. "I'm not going to hurt you." The girl didn't move. She only looked at him, trembling like a leaf. Scrap made a soft beep and wagged its small mechanical tail. Jack took off his coat and gently wrapped it around the girl. She flinched at first, then slowly relaxed into the warmth. Her skin felt cold, too cold for someone alive. "How long have you been out here?" Jack whispered, more to himself than to her. She didn't answer. She just kept staring at him with glowing eyes. Back at Jack's shelter, a small metal hut near the edge of the forest, he made her a bed with blankets. He gave her water, which she drank quickly. He tried to give her food, but she didn't seem to trust it yet. She still hadn't said a word. Jack checked her arms for a tag or ID chip. Most alien children had one, but she had nothing. No name, no number. Just strange, spiral-like marks on her shoulders. He used his scanner to check her vitals. The scanner made a strange noise, then flickered. Error. System overload. Restart required. "What the?" Jack frowned. He had scanned hundreds of aliens before, but never saw this. Scrap walked around her in a circle, then beeped 3 times. "Unknown energy pattern detected," the bot said. Jack scratched his shreed. "What are you, little one?" Night came fast on the dead planet. Jack sat near the fire while the girl slept in a corner, wrapped in his coat. Scrap powered down beside the door. Outside, the wind howled. But inside, everything was quiet. Jack looked at the sleeping girl. She was peaceful now, her small chest rising and falling gently. Then he saw it. A soft glow, blue and white, shimmered across her skin. The strange spiral marks lit up slowly like they were alive. The air around her shimmered slightly like heat waves. Jack leaned forward, shocked. "What the hell?" Suddenly her hand twitched. The glow faded. The room turned dark again. Jack sat back, heart beating fast. "Okay," he whispered. "You're definitely not just a lost kid." In the middle of the night, Jack woke to a strange noise. Not loud, just wrong. He got up and walked to the door, opened it slowly. Far away in the ash-covered hills, he saw them. 3 shadows, humanoid, standing near the broken trees, watching. He closed the door quietly and locked it. Then he looked at the girl, still asleep. "I don't know who you are," he whispered, "but someone's looking for you, and they might be coming fast." The alien girl did not sleep well. She tossed and turned under Jack's old coat, her face tight with fear. Once, she whispered something in a strange language, a soft word Jack didn't understand. Morning light broke through the cracked windows of the metal shelter. The sky was still gray and ash still fell outside, but inside, it was quiet. Jack sat on the floor near her, drinking lukewarm synth coffee. His eyes were tired, but he didn't look away from her, not even once. When the girl opened her eyes, she sat up quickly, breathing hard. "It's okay," Jack said gently. "You're safe here. No one's gonna hurt you." She stared at him, still no words. Later, Jack tried to get her to eat again. This time, she took a bite from the protein bar. It was dry and tasteless, but she chewed slowly, carefully, as if unsure if it was safe. Jack smiled. "That's it. You gotta eat if you want to stay strong." She looked up at him with wide eyes and tilted her head. "Luma," he said, pointing at her. "Luma, that's your name now." "Okay." She blinked. "Luma," Jack said again, pointing to her chest, then to himself. "Jack." She stared for a moment, then placed a hand gently on her chest. "Luma." Her voice was soft and beautiful, like a tiny bell. It was the first word she spoke since Jack found her. Jack grinned. "Good girl." Scrap beeped and walked in circles around Luma again. Suddenly, the bot stopped and said, "Royal signature detected." "What?" Jack turned. Scrap repeated, "Warning, royal DNA fragment found. Processing." Then the bot's eyes flickered, and it shut down. Sparks flew from its side. Smoke rose from its panel. Jack jumped to his feet. "Scrap? Hey, what did you say?" No answer. Jack pulled out his tools, but the damage was strange, as if something had fried the core from the inside. He glanced at Luma, who was now staring at the broken robot. Her fingers were glowing softly. "Did you—" Jack began, but stopped. She looked afraid again, as if she didn't mean to do anything. She pulled her hands back and hugged her knees. Outside, wind swept the dust and ash through the air. Jack sat beside her again. "You don't have to be scared of me," he said quietly. "But I need to know. Who are you?" Luma didn't speak. She turned to the window, her eyes filled with tears. Later that day, Jack took her outside to get fresh air. They walked slowly near the wreckage where he had found her. Luma held his hand tightly. She wouldn't let go. Jack noticed how she looked at everything. Every flower, every broken machine, every piece of metal, like she was remembering a world he couldn't see. Suddenly, she stopped. At the base of a scorched tree, half covered in ash, was a small platinum crest. Luma reached out and picked it up. It glowed faintly in her hand. A symbol was carved on it, a strange star with wings and a crown. Jack looked at it. "You know what that is?" She nodded slowly. "It was on my mother's chest," she whispered. Jack froze. That was the second thing she ever said, and it was enough to send chills down his spine. That night, as Jack cleaned the tools and tried fixing Scrap, Luma sat on the bed staring at the silver crest. She didn't blink. She didn't smile. Outside, the ash storm began to build. Wind howled through the trees. The lights flickered. And then, boom, something crashed into the side of the hut. Jack grabbed his rifle and looked through the narrow window. A small black drone hovered outside. Red light blinked from its eye. It scanned the shelter, then flew off fast into the trees. Jack locked the doors. His heart was pounding. "Someone's tracking us," he said. He turned to Luma. "Who are you really, kid?" She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes, it was not the look of a lost child anymore. It was the look of someone who had already seen war. The next day began quietly, too quietly. Even the ash in the air didn't move much. Jack stood outside the shelter with his rifle across his back, eyes scanning the horizon. Luma sat on the metal steps, her legs swinging as she watched the wind blow over the scorched trees. She had not spoken again since last night's crash, but her fingers played with the platinum crest in her hand like it was the last piece of her world. Jack didn't like this silence. He knew it meant something was coming. By noon, a sound broke the stillness, a hum in the sky, low and deep. Jack looked up and saw it, a small dark shuttle coming in slow, quiet like a bird of prey. It landed far off near the canyon, dust swirling beneath it. Minutes later, 3 figures walked toward his shelter. tall, in dark armored suits. They moved like soldiers but didn't wear any faction Jack recognized. He walked out to meet them, keeping Luma behind the shelter wall. One of them stepped forward. A woman with a silver visor and sharp voice. "Greetings, Earthmen," she said with a forced smile. "We are part of a cleanup crew, looking for survivors from a crashed royal vessel." Jack stayed calm. "Haven't seen anything like that. Just scrap metal and bones." The second visitor, a bulky man with a scanner, stepped closer. He aimed his device toward the shelter. The screen flickered, then beeped. "There's a powerful heat signature inside," he said. Jack didn't blink. "That's my fusion stove. Gets real hot, makes good soup." The third figure, quiet until now, took a slow step forward. His voice was low and cold. "If there is a child here, she might be in danger. We have orders to protect any survivors." Jack crossed his arms. "Funny. You came with guns, not medkits." Inside the shelter, Luma crouched near the wall. Her eyes were wide. Her hands shook as she clutched the crest. The red dot from the scanner danced across the window for just a moment, and disappeared. She closed her eyes, and everything around her went still. No sound, no wind, just silence. Her skin shimmered. The crest lit up faintly, and then, like before, the lights inside the shelter flickered, then burned brighter. Outside, Jack noticed something odd. The scanner held by the big soldier began to spark. It whined, then burst into flames in the man's hand. "Damn thing shorted," he shouted. The woman with the visor frowned. "That's the third one this week. Too much interference on this planet." The silent one leaned in close to Jack. His voice was barely a whisper now. "If you have her, you'd better hide well. There are others who won't ask questions first." Jack didn't reply. The three turned and walked back to their ship, leaving only footprints in the ash. When they were gone, Jack entered the shelter fast and closed the door behind him. Luma looked at him with frightened eyes. He knelt in front of her and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Who were they?" he asked softly. She stared at him for a long time. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "Hunters. They wear faces, but they smell like fire." Jack didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. Someone wanted her, badly. And those people outside, they weren't here to help. That night, Jack packed supplies. He didn't wait for another visit. Luma stood near the doorway holding her small bag of things. Just a blanket, the crest, and a broken hollow photo from the shipwreck. Jack turned off the lights and powered up his old desert. "Rover, we're going off-grid," he told her. "No signals, no roads, just dust and stars." She didn't say anything, but when he lifted her into the rover's seat, she whispered something that made Jack pause. She looked at the stars and said, "If they find me, the sky will burn again." Jack looked at her. "Not while I'm breathing." He hit the ignition, and they disappeared into the ash-blown night. The rover's wheels cut through the dry ash like waves through snow. Jack didn't speak. He just kept driving, eyes focused, hands tight on the wheel. His mind raced faster than the engine. Luma sat quietly beside him, wrapped in a thick blanket. Her fingers still clutched the glowing crest. She didn't cry. She didn't ask where they were going, but her eyes, they didn't look like a child's eyes anymore. They were the eyes of someone who had already lost everything once. As night fell across the dead world, Jack parked the rover deep inside a canyon. Red rocks rose high around them like the bones of an ancient beast. He made a small fire with old heat sticks. Luma sat beside him, staring into the flames. Jack handed her a ration bar. "We'll keep moving at sunrise. No signals, no talking, just survive." Luma nodded slowly. Then softly she said, "My mother used to make fires like this, on the royal cliffs, before the sky turned black." Jack's hand froze mid-bite. "Royal cliffs?" She didn't answer, just looked up at the stars. "My name is not really Luma," she whispered. "It's Lumiria Valtari." princess of the 9th moon of Sarath Kai. Jack blinked. She continued, voice flat, like she was telling someone else's story. My ship was not just cargo. It carried the last seal of the Star Throne. My aunt wanted it. She sent assassins. My mother hid me, sent me away. Jack sat quietly, a small princess, hiding in a metal pod, buried under dust, and now hunted across the stars. Suddenly a high-pitched beep rang from Jack's belt. He grabbed the small device, his old motion detector. It blinked red. 3 life signs. Approaching. Fast. They found us, Jack muttered, already packing. Luma stood, face pale but calm. She didn't ask questions. She just climbed into the rover and strapped in. Minutes later, they sped through the narrow canyon trail, wind and dust blasting around them. Behind them, 3 hoverbikes screamed across the sky. Sleek, black, and deadly. Searchlights scanned the ground. A voice echoed from a loudspeaker. Return the girl and live. This is your only warning. Jack didn't reply. Instead, he pulled a sharp left and drove straight into a rocky cave entrance only a human eye could notice in the shadows. Inside the cave, it was tight and dark. The walls glowed faintly with minerals. Jack turned off the engine and whispered, "Hold your breath." The bikes flew overhead. A few moments passed. Then silence. They were safe. For now. Luma turned to him. "You didn't give me away," she said quietly. Jack looked at her, his voice low. "I don't leave kids behind, especially not ones with glowing crests and bounty hunters chasing them." Luma smiled for the first time, just a little, and then she leaned her head on his arm. Far above, the hunters circled. One of them clicked his comm. "She's with the Earthman, hiding again. She's not just a runaway. The crest is active." "A cold voice replied through the speaker. "Good. Let him protect her. It will make killing them both more useful." The bike turned, and the hunt continued. The cave was cold and quiet. The fire Jack built was small, just enough to keep Luma warm. Outside, the canyon echoed with the low hum of hunter ships searching, scanning, circling. But inside the cave, a deeper storm was building. Luma sat across from Jack, the platinum crest now floating in the air before her. It spun slowly, glowing brighter each minute like it was waking up. Jack had never seen anything like it. He had been around tech his whole life. Old machines, alien parts, energy, cores. But this wasn't tech. It was alive. Luma closed her eyes. Her voice was calm but strong now. "When I was born, 3 stars aligned. A rare sign. My people believed it meant I would bring peace to the divided systems." She opened her hand. A soft white light pulsed in her palm. "I didn't want to be a ruler. I just wanted to play with my sisters. Eat honey crystals. Read the skies. But one day, the queen, my aunt, changed." Jack listened, his breath slow. Luma continued. "She believed the throne should be hers. She said peace made us weak. That war brings power." Her eyes grew darker. "She killed my parents, took the palace, ordered my ship destroyed." Jack sat forward. "And you? You're the only one left?" Luma nodded. "I carry the last royal seal in my blood. That's why the crest glows. It only listens to the true heir." Jack rubbed his face. His hands trembled. "You're telling me you're the last princess of an empire that ruled 8 systems, and the only thing keeping peace alive?" Luma looked at him. "No," she whispered. "I'm not keeping peace alive. You are. You saved me. You could have sold me, left me, but you didn't." Jack looked away. His voice was rough. "I'm no hero, kid. I'm just a junk man trying to survive." Luma stood and stepped toward him. She placed her tiny glowing hand over his heart. "No, you are more human than most rulers are royal." Suddenly, a loud buzz cut through the cave. Jack grabbed his comm. A weak signal was breaking through. His old radio had caught something. Deep voice came through, broken by static. To any rebel cell. Subject Valtari confirmed alive. Earthman companion suspected. Reward, unlimited. Dead or alive. Jack's blood ran cold. They've put a bounty on us. Luma's hands balled into fists. I won't run anymore, she said. They want me afraid, hidden. But I am the daughter of the Light Star throne. She walked into the cave's center. The crest flew into her hands, and her entire body began to glow, soft, silver light wrapping around her like a second skin. The ground, under her feet, trembled slightly. Jack stepped back. Luma, what are you doing? I'm sending a message, she said, her voice echoing. To the sleeping allies, to the old codes, to the ones who still believe in the true bloodline. A blue beam shot out from the crest, high into the cave ceiling. Strange alien symbols flickered in the light like forgotten songs. Then, silence. The light faded. Luma collapsed to her knees. Jack rushed over and caught her. You okay? She nodded slowly. They will know I'm alive now, both friend and enemy. That night they sat near the fire again. Jack didn't say much, neither did she. But something had changed. Jack wasn't just protecting a lost alien girl anymore. He was now guarding the last flame of a dying empire, and across the stars, someone else had felt that flame spark to life. In the dark chambers of a faraway palace, a tall woman stood before a burning screen. Her eyes were sharp and cruel. She smiled. So, the little star still burns, she whispered. Send the black fleet. They ran at dawn. No more hiding. No more waiting for shadows to find them. Jack loaded the rover with what little he had. Water packs, power cells, a pulse rifle, and an old rebel map burned at the edges. Luma sat beside him, quiet, her face calm but her hands shaking slightly. He looked at her as the sun rose behind the red cliffs. You sure you want to do this? She nodded. If I keep running, more people die. If I fight, maybe we have a chance. Jack tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Then let's give them a fight they'll never forget. They headed into Sector 12, the bone fields. Long ago, it was a battlefield. Now it was a graveyard of metal giants. Crashed warships, broken mech suits, torn banners from 100 lost armies. No one came here anymore. Too many ghosts. Which made it perfect. Jack used the map to find a half-buried bunker hidden beneath the remains of a starfighter. It was once a rebel engineering post. Abandoned, but still wired with traps. He activated the defenses. Turrets came to life. Energy walls flickered on. The place was old, but Jack knew how to wake it. This is our line, he said. We hold them here. Luma stood in the center of the bunker. She placed the glowing crest on a cracked console. Lights blinked. Doors hissed. Old rebel tech came alive, responding to her bloodline. She really is royal, Jack whispered to himself. But outside in the skies far above, something else stirred. The Black Fleet had arrived. Night came like a blanket of smoke. From the top of the bunker, Jack saw them. Black dropships, no lights, no sound. They dropped fast, cutting through the sky like knives. Then, explosions. The first. Bombs hit the ground outside the bone fields. Jack activated the mines. Boom, boom, boom. Metal giants shook. Ash rose into the air. The night turned orange with fire, but they kept coming. Dozens, maybe more. Inside the bunker, Jack gave Luma a small transmitter. If anything happens to me, you press this. It'll call the last rebel frequency still open. Looked up at him. I won't leave without you. You might have to, he said. No, she whispered. You saved me. You gave me a name, a blanket, food. You never looked at me like a weapon. You're my papa now. Jack froze. She had never called him that out loud before. He gently pulled her into a hug, his hand covering her head. No matter what happens, he whispered, I'll buy you enough time. The enemy hit the bunker like a storm. Jack fired. From the front gate, his rifle glowing red. Drones buzzed overhead. Hunter soldiers with black armor and sharp eyes moved fast, but Jack was faster. He dropped 3 in seconds, set off a trap, took down a dropship with a stolen rocket. They didn't expect an old junk man to fight like this, but they forgot. Humans don't give up, especially not when protecting someone they love. Luma stayed deep in the core room. The crest hovered above, her now, spinning faster. It sent signals into space, seeking help, old allies, anyone who still remembered her family's name. But time was running out. Jack's voice came over the comm. "Luma, I'm hit. They're breaching the west door. Don't come out. I repeat, do not." The signal cut. Luma stood, and for the first time in her life, she didn't wait to be rescued. She stepped into the corridor, her white hair glowing, eyes burning. With light, a soldier raised his weapon and it froze in midair. Luma lifted her hand. The crest spun beside her, humming with power. Walls trembled, the corridor filled with light, and she walked through the fire. Not as a child, not as a victim, but as a queen. Far away, on a hidden moon, an old rebel commander opened her eyes as the signal came in. "Bloodline, confirmed. Valtari has returned." She stood. "All units, prepare to move." Smoke rose from the bone fields. The battle was over, but the sky still burned red. Jack lay on the ground near the west entrance of the bunker. His arm was bleeding, his chest was heavy, but his eyes were open, watching her. Luma stood in the center of the battlefield. The platinum crest floated beside her, glowing like a small sun. She was no longer hiding, she was shining. The enemy troops had stopped moving, their weapons still in their hands, but none dared raise them again. Luma had walked through fire, blades, lasers. None touched her. The crest formed a shield around her body, and her voice when she spoke was no longer that of a child. It echoed across the air, touching every heart. "You fought to bury me in dust, but I rose. You called me lost, but I was found. I am Lumiria Valtari, heir of the Light Star throne, and I will not run anymore." Silence followed. Then, one soldier slowly dropped his weapon, then another, and another, until the battlefield was silent. Inside the rebel base, old systems activated. The seal had awakened. Across distant planets, long-forgotten outposts lit up. Screens blinked. Ancient codes unlocked. All carried the same message. The Queen lives. Jack was pulled from the ground and carried inside. Luma walked beside him, her small hand gripping his tight. He looked at her and gave a weak smile. "You did good, kid." She looked at him and whispered, "You stayed for me, even when I had nothing." He touched her cheek with his dusty hand. "You were never nothing." 3 days later, the first rebel ships arrived. Medical drones rushed to treat Jack. He was stable but weak. Luma refused to leave his side. Leaders from lost worlds came, one by one, kneeling before her. They offered ships, armies, gold. But Luma didn't ask for power. She only asked for peace, and for a room with a window where Jack could rest. Weeks passed. The skies calmed. The Black Fleet was called back by the Empress, for now. But her silence was not surrender. A larger war was coming. Luma knew this, but now she wouldn't face it alone. She was no longer the orphan in the dirt. She was a queen, with a protector at her side. On the top of a new palace, built not from gold, but from stone and steel, Luma stood watching the stars. Jack joined her, a scar across his brow and a new strength in his step. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. Luma nodded. "I was born to carry the stars, but you taught me to walk on the ground." Jack smiled. "Guess we both saved each other." She looked at him, soft and serious. "You're not just my protector, Jack." He raised a brow. "No? You're my family. And somewhere, beyond the stars." The Empress watched, her eyes cold, her lips curved. "This is not the end, little queen. But Luma had already changed the future. One human's kindness lit a fire the galaxy would never forget.